I think a lot about how the process has evolved when you look at this in retrospect, and you can kind of go back from those first moments where you don't even know what you're recording. It's a secret project. And then, in 2016, I discovered that it was Zelda after landing the audition and getting the role. So I auditioned for it and had no idea that it was the role of Zelda until I signed some NDAs. And from that kind of launch point, and that was 10 years ago, or more than 10 years ago, it was this crazy year of excitement and also trepidation and just wanting to do a great job. So I stayed on the project. You never know when these things might shift. Hi, my name is Patricia Somerset. You may know me as the voice of Princess Zelda or Ash in Rainbow Six, Galena or Hope in Assassin's Creed and stuff like that. Just wanted to say that you are listening to the #1 podcast in Hawaii, the Kasanova podcast. Come, join us.
All right. Aloha and welcome everyone to another episode of Hawaii's #1 podcast, Kasanova podcast. And today we are joined by a very, very, very special guest. The one, the only, the icon, Patricia Somerset. Patricia, how are you doing today?
Hey, hello, Mekel. I am very well. Lovely to be here. Happy to talk to you.
It is an absolute honor to have you on the show. And for the three people in the back that don't know, you are the voice of Zelda. You've been the voice of Zelda for over a decade now, from Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, was it a Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity? And it's been a while, like a wild journey. How has it, I guess, in your opinion, how has it been impactful to your life and your career? And how has the fan reception been?
I'll correct you. It's been almost a decade, which is kind of nuts because I think about this all the time. Breath of the Wild will have its 10-year anniversary next April or May, whenever that came out in 2017. And
I think it's 2016.
But my involvement has been pretty much over a decade. My involvement has, as I was quietly recording the first game in 2016 and stuff. Yeah, so it's honestly, I think a lot about how the process has evolved when you look at this in retrospect, and you can kind of go back from those first moments where you don't even know what you're recording. It's a secret project. And then, in 2016, I discovered that it was Zelda after landing the audition and getting the role. So I auditioned for it and had no idea that it was the role of Zelda until I signed some NDAs. And from that kind of launch point, and that was 10 years ago, or more than 10 years ago, it was this crazy year of excitement and also trepidation and just wanting to do a great job. So I stayed on the project. You never know when these things might shift, and before they're released, you don't know if they're going to be released. You have no guarantees in this field, as you know, right? And so, it was pretty darn exciting to get the part, really exciting to start recording. At the time, I had moved to LA from Montreal, Quebec, via London and Toronto. And I'd been acting for 10 years by that point, and thankfully had experienced a fair bit of highs and lows in the industry. So I was kind of like, a little fortified to sort of get into this process. But it was a really big year, and it was a really big impact and a really big deal to get the role, to get any role, to just know that moving to LA was a huge risk for me to do. And I'm like, it's a symbol that I'm in the right place right now. So darn exciting. And then to not expect how well it was going to do, the sort of all the Game of the Year awards. I think it garnered over 200 or something like that. Just a crazy amount of hype around the game, being the launch game of the Switch. And here I am 10 years later, after traveling the world and doing a lot of Comic-Cons and meeting with fans for years and evolving with and through the character. We've been through a pandemic. We've been through coming out of a pandemic. We've been through so many things in the global world, the changing of technologies, the burgeoning of, AI kind of like, spraying into the universe a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, all these things, or with all these things in mind, I look back on this whole journey of doing such a role like this, and I have just even more appreciation for it, because I'm like, it's extraordinary when they happen. It's extraordinary when they're seen through, when they get followed through, and when a game that's worked on by thousands of people reaches an audience at all. I mean, it's all just, there's so many things that have to go into it to make it work. So I'm here now and still, pinching myself. I guess it's pretty cool.
I want to ask this question because, like, you wear so many creative hats, actor, voice actress, singer songwriter, former competitive ice dancer. Like, what does a typical week or a day in the life look like for you right now, between splitting time between Montreal and LA? And how do you protect your energy and creativity across all of it?
That's a great question.
Loaded question, I know.
And I'll be honest, this last week was a bit of a doozy. I'm not actually sure. That's one of the most important things to do, but so is not being too hard on yourself when you fail at it sometimes, protecting that energy. You're just going to have ebbs and flows. I might have, skipped a couple of auditions that I would have otherwise done this last week, if I'm honest. I just finished one before this podcast interview. I also just rushed to a cafe to have a writing meeting with my friend who's working on a short screenplay. So I read through hers, did some writing myself on my little contraption, and then biked back because I'm currently in Montreal. I'd say if, for example, this last week for me consisted of this. I started in Boise, Idaho at the beginning of the week after having just gotten back from Montreal the week before. I hosted some video game awards and did auditions, self-tapes. When I land in Idaho, I'm doing auditions from there, some work. And then by the end of the week, I leave. I fly to Las Vegas. We do a convention over the weekend. I take a red eye back on a Sunday night, land back in Montreal on a Monday morning, and try to do some auditions, decide to skip them, sleep until 1, go that night to a music rehearsal, and then on Tuesday morning kind of wake up and I'm like, okay, auditions, writing meeting, interview. Then I'm going to do some tennis, and then I'm going to go back and do another music rehearsal. That's my day. Now, they're not all like that, but that's how kind of scattershot my life kind of is on a regular basis. It's like there's no 9 to 5 and there's no one location. There are just multiple locations. And me finding a routine right now in life is hard. But I also, I definitely gain energy from travel and meeting people. It's kind of a really wild, circusy sort of life. And I love doing a variety of different projects. So whenever I can, whenever I can have meetings with creative partners who I really enjoy, I'm like, I'm there for it all the time. That's my soul. That's the thing that feeds me. So yeah, that's sort of it, if that makes sense. But like, that's when I look at that weekend, I go, I was there and then I was there and then I somehow got there. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of a typical week right now.
No, that's similar to one of my best friends is Nick Apostolides, who does Leon in the Resident Evil series. And every time I text him or I call him, I'm like, where in the world are you right now? He's like, well, I was over here in Europe. I was over here in South America. I was over here doing this project. I can't talk about this. I'm just like, how do you manage? Because like when you're traveling that much, you're doing so many things. Like you've got to have at least 20 to 30 minutes a day to yourself to just not go crazy.
Yeah, I do. I really rely heavily on sport, to calm down. I'll have coffees with friends. Sometimes I'll mix in, coffees or dinners with friends are also work meetings because they are people I work with. So I end up having friends who I can also discuss creative stuff with. And I let it kind of meld together in my life, lifestyle wise. I mean, that's one of the things that I do. I'm also child free and I also don't have any pets. And if that had changed, I probably would have made very different life decisions about how and when to travel and where and how I need to be accountable to whom. That's a really big thing. And I'd say another thing that really helps me right now is I have a very stable partner who's in the business and understands. And so when we get to be together, we often travel together to these things. And we also just rely on a little bit on each other's sort of encouragement and like commiseration. We kind of get it. There's that. And one thing that we'll do when we have some downtime, one thing I didn't mention is, last week in Boise when I was with my partner, we spent several evenings in a row going out into the woods and looking for great horned owls and screech owls and just photographing them and finding them and listening for the calls and sort of, binoculars, phone, and we saw a bunch of them. It was really exciting. So that's something that we'll do. We'll sort of go off grid when we can. That's more than 20 minutes, and it's really necessary. It's awesome.
I was gonna say, have you done any of the conventions here in Hawaii? And if not, let me know because I
Oh my
work
gosh. I
the
was just
media
talking
for.
about, yeah, I would love to do I'm like, I don't know how I haven't done a convention in Hawaii. I have not. I've not been there yet. And I don't think my partner Roger has either. So yeah, let's
Okay,
talk.
okay,
Let's
okay.
talk about this.
Yeah, because I do all three of the major. I do media for all three major conventions out here. So
Man, that's so
Comic
cool.
Con Honolulu, Mason Comic Con Hawaii, and there's another one that took a year off, but should be back this year. But yeah, I'll connect your agent with them and you directly with them, so we can. I know they'd love to have you here.
Amazing. What island are you on, by the way? Like, are you
I'm on Oahu.
okay? And do you travel around a lot when you live in Hawaii in one place, do you end up sort of taking planes and go to the other islands at all, or are you pretty
Yeah,
much,
yeah. So
yeah?
for me, I do that a lot because I do consultations outside of content creating. So I do consultations for a lot of companies out here that either need to improve their social media presence or they need to reach a new demographic. And I'm like, okay, so give me an idea of what it is you're working with, and then I'll go from there. I also do that for other companies as well within like game and tech as well. So done that with Sega. I've done that a couple times with Xbox. I'm one of the few Xbox was kind of funny because I'm the creator for them, but they're one of my clients. So this is kind of interesting. So yeah, between traveling to different islands for local businesses and then also, either international or to the mainland or so, depending on what the event is or what the company is. So, and it's taxing. I've got a partner and we have two children. I have a 6-month old and a 5-year old. It is rough trying to travel and doing all that with kids. So
Yeah, that sounds really, really intense.
yeah.
I have two sisters who have young kids. One of them is 1.5. The other one is a little closer to, well, actually, they're both roughly 1.5. One of them was born a little premature, but watching them adjust their lifestyle to, it's like the most beautiful thing. And it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
You're just, and even as an auntie, I'm constantly sort of like, everything affects the whole family unit. We're all just like, it's all a big deal for everybody, but I don't have to be on the ground making it happen. So kudos. 6 months, so must be
Yeah.
the cutest butt.
Yeah. So, so you mentioned sports. So I know so you mentioned tennis, you've done ice skating before. Like what got you into sports? And aside from those two, is there any others that you partake in?
Yeah. What got me into sports was I grew up in a very small town in rural Michigan, and there were a few sports available. I played them all. My parents we were really outdoorsy children. We grew
Hmm.
up in a place where like lots of woods, lots of white-tailed deer on Lake Superior, which is a very big part of my, upbringing and very much a part of my sort of creative source now. And it was just like breathing, I was always moving around and being active. I got into figure skating quite young. My mom actually helped found a figure skating club in the local area so that there were resources for people to skate, to use the rinks for something other than just the hockey teams. Because there was a
Hmm.
lot of desire for literally anything else other than like, hockey and football and basketball. So I really credit my mom to being a sort of community activist in that way, and then also benefited from her days of going to, early in the morning, waking up, going to the rink, haggling with the Zamboni driver to be like, please, please, could you also Zamboni this ice for all these other figure skaters who want to come on? And they'd be like, okay. So it started like that. And then it became a thriving community. So I grew up figure skating there, and then eventually took it to a competitive level when I was older, and sort of decided to make that decision. I sort of came back to it after a few years off in high school, but had skated pretty, with discipline when I was younger. I really liked it. It also got me out of a small area, so I could go to places like other places in the Midwest, like Wisconsin and Minneapolis and Minnesota, and that was a huge deal. I could like, compete at the other rinks. That was like the adventure of a lifetime. So I guess traveling and adventure and the smells of cities, even if they were tiny, were, yeah, I have really fond memories of those when I was younger. So it's probably what kind of affects me now when I'm jumping around and city hopping and going, oh, I do get an excitement or a thrill from traveling the world. But yeah, that, and then I'd say now, so I did play hockey as well when I was younger. Baseball is another big thing that I really enjoy. I'm not on the baseball team this year, but I have been up until very recently with a bunch of like weird Motley Crue musicians from
Mhm.
Montreal. But I'm not here enough to sustain a baseball team on the weekends. I'm usually gone by the time the weekends come along. But it's a bunch of like musicians. It's kind of a weird, I call it the rock star baseball team because the guy who owns this studio called Hotel to Tango, this guy named Howard Billerman, and he's done like Arcade Fire and Leonard Cohen and Patrick Watson and all these musicians that are pretty amazing. So many more, and a lot of them are also like they'll just come and just join for a baseball match, in between tours. And so it's like a Godspeed You, Black Emperor. I don't know if you've heard of that band, but like Ephraim, the
Yeah,
lead singer,
yeah, yeah.
that was like he'll just pop up and be like, cigarette in the mouth and kind of running bases. And, it's really like, I love baseball. I'm like a little retriever on the field. I prefer center field. I love to run. But yeah, I really get a kick out of that kind of dual, like, it's like the culture of this strange little indie place.
I thought you would like being like a shortstop. It's a center field.
No, I'll tell you what, why not? I probably
Okay.
could, but it's a co-ed and I'm like, dudes, whoever want the balls in your face, you go up front. I do not want balls in my face. I am an actor. I have to, and I'm also not 20 anymore. So I know what I can do and I want to see it coming from a long way away and I can catch it. But if it's too fast, I'm like, I do not want I know so many horror stories of actors like just getting whacked in the face. And
Yeah.
yeah, and they're like, oh no, my gig tomorrow is so in trouble. So I'm like, nah, I don't need it. I don't need it that fast, really. I speak a good game, but then I back way up.
No, I definitely understand that, especially like because so with me, like I'm in my late 30s. I'm close to 40 at this
You're
point,
late
and
30s.
I gotta put it out there like that. Yeah. So I'm turning 38 this year, and there's so many things I'm realizing. I'm like, I'm not in my 20s anymore. I can't. Like, no, I get up too quickly. Like, and I'm athletic, so I work out a lot. I do yoga, I do karate, I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, capoeira, and all that. And
Wow. Okay.
on top of all that, I'm like, yeah, I still can't do that if I don't warm up. And yeah, so when I do, occasionally if I play sports, so I play baseball and
What's your
just soccer and
position?
such
Are
like
you shortstop?
shortstop.
You
Yes,
are
yes,
shortstop.
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes, yes. I've gotten cream in the face a couple of times, but it's like, it's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, you know what? I think I need to probably pick a different position to play because, yeah, that's a young person's
Wearing
thing.
hats and like different pads where you're like, I just can't chance that anymore. You just start
Yes. Yeah.
adjusting. Anyway. Oh, that's fun. Okay. So you know the love of the baseball. It's so
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
you and my partner would definitely get along. She's very very similar to you, similar background. So
Really? Oh, how fun.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And we also do a podcast together out here. So she does a show called Podcast Across Worlds, which focuses on voice actors and anime and manga and such. So I co-host that with her. Whereas, that's what sometimes we'll have overlap, but yeah, we're the only two in Hawaii that do this. And this weekend we're working a convention that's going to have our friend Bryce Papenbrook there.
Yeah,
So
Bryce. Oh, he's
so
lovely. Yeah.
yeah. So we're excited for that. But I know she probably love to have you as a guest on her show. She's a big fan of your work.
And let's talk. I'm into it.
Awesome.
Good.
So all right. So I gotta ask, what's your favorite top three bands of all time?
No, I'm so bad at that. I can't even answer that question. Some people are so precise with these answers, and I just drift around. Right now, what's on my playlist? It's actually a really hard question for me. I just do not have favorites. I really don't. For dinner music, I've been enjoying the album Andrew Bird's Outside Problems and Inside
Mm-hmm.
Problems, but mostly Outside Problems. It's just this. The Outside Problems. It doesn't have lyrics, but it's great instrumental with. It's very kind of very moody and, beautiful cello work and just easy, just like an easy listening, but artful. I just really enjoy that. I can only say what I'm enjoying. I can't say what my favorites are. I can say what some influences are, I guess. I was very much influenced by a combination of classic rock station growing up, like incessant classic rock. Very big fans of like Led Zeppelin and Tom Petty and
Black Sabbath.
Black Sabbath, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. I'm a metalhead.
Okay. Well, I also, as a teenager, went through a phase of listening to Pen.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then the Doors hit me big for a while, but I'm over it. But I still love them. Not so obsessively as I did when I was like 14 and depressed. But yeah, I mean, I like songs of indie bands. I'm trying to, God, it's like blanking out like a crazy whatever here. I haven't even said anything. I don't even know. I'll pop back up. I'm just gonna randomly name out some bands, and I'm like, oh yeah, I am listening to that right now. I don't actually listen incessantly to music. That's why it's hard for me to answer that question too. I concretely sit down and I'll go back through like music at any era and then consciously listen to it and enjoy it and sort of feel things for it. And then I'll sort of move forward. But I don't listen to a playlist. I don't always have something. I sit in silence most of the time, to be honest. Just in kind of, yeah, probably because I'm really sensitive to it. I don't know.
No, I mean, with how busy your schedule is, I would, that makes perfect sense, and I'm the same way in many ways. Like it depends on my mood. If I'm really like, all right, I need to get my energy up, Black Sabbath. If I feel like I want some screamo, Kill Switch, Engage, like it kind of depends on the mood. But I feel like when you're really, really busy and you're constantly traveling or working on multiple projects, silence is the big thing. So no, I definitely understand that. And also too, I know you have your own band, Summersett, so you create your own music and such. So like, I'm going to assume, if I'm incorrect, correct me. But another reason you probably don't listen to a lot of music is not wanting it to affect your creative process when you're creating your own.
I do think that has part, like I'll listen to music strategically and with a lot of intention when I do sit down and listen to bands, other than like Andrew Bird's Outside Problem. Like, but I'll put something on that's like, in that regard, it's sort of it's a nice blanket. Like recently I was listening to old John Prine songs with Lucinda Williams, and I was like, God, those are good. They're so good. And then that'll be it for like that chunk. And then I'll sort of move on. I won't I'll just like listen to them with a lot of focus and then move forward. And, recently my partner and we're sort of going back into the writing process right now in the evenings, as I've said, and we're listening to French pop songs that have just been sort of strategically placed on a playlist of like, let's listen to these 4 songs. Why do they work? Why are they fun? What do we like about them? And then we'll let them go and then go into our own writing process and not trying to sound like them, just kind of taking a bit of channeling or inspiration from what they meant, or just like little blips of what we like from them. And French pop and a little bit of dance music, just stuff that we don't actually usually write ourselves. So I don't know. I don't find music is often a blanket for me, but I will, whenever I'm moving, Mekel, I will put on Tom Petty's Wildflowers and listen to the whole CD, which I know very much by heart, if ever I'm cleaning up a house and I'm going through a move of some kind. So that's like the one soundtrack that too is like a blanket. That means a lot. So
Okay. So there's some overlap between you and I. So we both come from very creative families, and so you got sisters who are all artists and you guys collaborate musically. What's it like creating like together, and how does that family dynamic influence or ground your work?
What a cool, that's an evolving question over the years. When we were younger, we would perform together as 4 sisters at places like Jamboree, and back when we went to church, we would do that sort of thing in church. And then just kind of around, my mom would take us all, and we would all sing in the different harmonies of whatever songs that we were given, be it holiday songs or some sort of easy thing. And we go to elder folks' homes. We would, just show up and kind of do the service of singing and bringing a little joy. So we kind of, I don't know, we had that base. And then as we got a little older, I think it became a little harder to create altogether. It's really more been in adulthood that we've come back together sort of when we can, sometimes as four. It's particularly when we did a jamboree 2 years ago, and it was really, really special because we're not all in Michigan at the same time almost ever in our lives, even though they have now moved all to Michigan and I'm still sort of flying around and stuff and living partly in Canada, living partly in LA. We all got there for this local jamboree that we'd grown up at. It was called the Aura Jamboree, just like this tiny town in the back of the village. And when we did that performance, two of my sisters had we did three original songs, one from each of us. So one written by my older sister, one written by myself, one written by my youngest sister. And then my other sister who sings opera, I think we did a sort of cover of something, but then we all performed on all of them. So we just kind of take whatever is there and just sort of go with it. But we are all creators, and there's like these days we're just like, wow, it's so amazing that we get to do this. Not really any ego getting in the way. I mean, we might squabble here and there, be like, but mostly we're just like, yay, we get the harmony. Oh my God. Like, which part? Can you please take that part? Because I'm not going to catch that fast enough if we have to perform really quickly and that kind of thing. So but I'd say the main thing is that having four sisters in a family means that you have a lot of support from my mom as well. There's just, even if they're not directly involved in the creative process, there is a grounding process anyway in the support that they give you in the conversations around what you may be doing, in the way that you can commiserate and even just advance your own ideas on something by simply just shooting the shit,
Yeah.
airing something or saying, I'd like to try that. My sister Kathy, who's an opera singer, in the fall, she was going to be doing something with a university where she does music in the mine. They have a big copper mine there. That's a site-specific space now that they'll eventually bring sort of concerts and ambient music and experimental stuff into, which is like really cool. And I was able to attend last year and watch her sing this beautiful sort of atonal stuff in this mine. And this next year, we were just talking, I don't think it's going to happen now for other reasons, but we were talking about doing creature sounds. Like I would come in with some creature sounds and ambient sounds to mimic the sort of ghosts or goblins, a little bit historical, a little bit fictional. And then she would sing opera over it, and we would do partly recorded and then something a bit of a live performance to sort of help out with this evening. And I was so excited for this, but the schedule's changing for other reasons entirely, like family things. And we're like, it might not happen this year, but that's always the dialogue. You always get to, it's just a lot of like, just throwing stuff out there and being like, yay. So fortunate to have that. I'm sure like you must have you've asked that question. There must be some amazing creative support that you have in your family. That's like, nobody can see. It's just this funny little glue or like a base for you. I don't know.
Yeah, like for me, okay, so my family is split between they're either musicians, singers, or professional wrestlers. So it's like you pick your lane, or athletes or athletes like playing football. So you got to pick your lane. And with my direct siblings, they're all musicians and or singers, and so I'm the youngest of five, and everyone else is like, probably some of the best, either guitarists or bassists or violinists or pianists, and they can all read. They're classically trained. I'm not. I learned to play music just by hearing it, and because I think for me it was more of a struggle because I didn't have that natural gift of being able to read music and understand and go through the training that they did. So I'm like, okay, I'm the young scrappy little brother. I'm gonna see if I can keep up with them. And then the other side of my family, or the Polynesian side, the Samoan side, is wrestlers. So the cousins I grew up with, they're all in WWE right now. So you got Roman Reigns, you got Jimmy and Jey Uso, Jacob Fatu, like. And folks are like, oh, those are your cousins? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, the Samoan family wrestling tree is actually pretty big. It's bigger than what they show you on TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so, I've done professional wrestling too. And I'm actually going to be trying out again for WWE this weekend. and be like, all right, this is my final shot with it. Because they're doing recruiting out here in Hawaii, so I'm gonna go for that. But yeah, I've gotten support, not so much from my siblings because there's a competitiveness when it comes to music, and so I'm like, all right, I just go off and do this other stuff. But when it came to like wrestling or the sports and whatnot, the extended family is definitely more supportive than my siblings who I'm like, come on, guys. We're like 30, 40, and 50 something. Like, why are we still having sibling rivalry? But
Hard
it is
one.
what it
Yeah.
is.
I get it's just, I mean, it's not as if my siblings and I haven't gone through certain, like, not choose your lanes, but hey, growing up, this is my niche. Why are you gonna sort of, we all skated at one point, we all sang, we all, actually, I remember sad moments when we were younger with sports with my sisters where my older sister, she'd set the record in junior high for the shortest mile
Mm-hmm.
run. And then I came along and I beat the record, but it was her record from 2 years earlier. And that happened. And then she was on the varsity basketball team. And then I came and got onto the varsity basketball team and started playing more as a freshman. And she was a
Mm-hmm.
junior. And it was devastating for her. That stuff is devastating at that age. It's really tricky. But we've gotten over that. We have grown out of that and we only have reasons to support each other because it's a tricky world out there. It's hard entertainment business, and you hope to have a little sport. So come on, I'm saying that to your family, like, make music.
So I see you have a booth that you're in right now. Was it difficult getting your booth set up, and do you have one in both locations? I know during the pandemic, a lot of my voice actor friends are like, I had to build a booth, and it was like really hard to get the materials or to get like a travel booth during the pandemic era. But like, have you already had one established prior to it, or?
I hadn't. In fact, this place, I'm in Montreal right now. I never thought that I would stay in this place, much less put a studio bricks into it.
Mm-hmm.
It's become a kind of, more because now I have a studio in it. And I was like, oh, this thing does fit in here. And it actually works pretty well. It happened right during the pandemic, right when everything was shutting down. I got, again, great tips from fellow voice actors who were shutting down in LA. And they're like, we've got a studio bricks. This is what we're doing. This is the thing to do. And I just purchased one immediately. Got it. It was literally being placed in as everything was shutting down and we went on a super curfew. But because I got it all in I actually had work-wise, a really great year and a great summer because I had this remote studio that I never would have otherwise tried to put in this place. And now here we are. It's just in the middle of my living room, but it's like this place in Montreal it's not very big. The studio bricks works for me. I can find it a little boomy at times. I've also got the older version. I think the newer version addresses that a little more, and I've got bass traps and things like that. I mean, it's been awesome. It's like a lifesaver on every front. But yeah, it was rough to put in. We were like masked, bringing things up 2 flights of stairs and like linking logging it together, and it was chaos. But everything in that time was chaos. It was,
Yeah.
as we all experienced the weird lockdowns and the curfews and that definitely happened here. In the place that I have with my partner, we both have a separate studio that's more built out. They're like designated studios and very professional grade. Not that this isn't too, but yeah, studios in every place where you live. It's just got to happen. It's whether it's a studio bricks or a built out room. So yes, I do have that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, when I'm in Canada, this is what I use. There's still a lot of recording in person, though. Regardless of the studios that I offer, I find when I'm in Quebec, they always want to record in person more often than not. That's still a trend here, so that's kind of interesting. But yeah.
Okay. So can you walk us through a process? Like, I guess if we were to say like during the pandemic time, because I know a lot of studios, I have a lot of friends who work with a lot of the recording studios, and they were saying that some studios are still particular about people going into booths to record because they didn't want to have people record remotely, but then a lot of them kind of relented towards it. Did you have to go through that yourself as well, or was it just okay?
Yeah, both things. I would say the early stages of the pandemic, everything was remote. And again, I was
Hmm.
completely saved by having the studio bricks. But I have found more and more, and particularly right now, it's sort of interesting. I feel like there's a lot more emphasis on be on the ground where we're recording. We don't want leaks. We don't want scripts being sent, and we don't want compromised materials. And now a lot of people, I think some of the pushback has to do with a lot of people claiming to have booths and designated spaces, but the sound quality and the technology isn't consistent, and it's just a
Hmm.
lot to set up. So I think sometimes the studios can get burned a little bit when that's the case. Yeah, I mean, there's just no consistent kind of standard of what is actually being used when you start getting into a global market and you start working from different countries and different states. And I wish there was; it would be better. Yeah, I feel the emphasis on being in studio now has become a real thing, both in Canada and in LA. Not always, but for the big projects, yeah, you make an effort to be there, and it's also good to have FaceTime when you can. And by FaceTime, I mean like face to face time, not face. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, that network.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm curious. With as much as you do travel, are you a foodie? And if you are, what are some of your favorite foods to try in places you've traveled to?
I will always. So when I'm traveling to cities that don't have much going for them in way of food, it's a pretty easy. It's a pretty easy find for me. I'm gonna do a like a steakhouse or French, just because, or sushi, like a Japanese restaurant, just because it's predictable what I can eat. And
Hmm.
also my partner's kind of sensitive to certain foods, so we just gotta be a little careful, like when we're traveling, I try to find whole foods and stuff without too many chemicals in it. Like that's just, I'm kind of looking for that. I don't like fast food at all. So yeah, you can generally find like a salad and like a fish or whatever at a steakhouse. And
Yeah.
I try for that first. Also the environments for it to be quiet at the end of a day after a convention are really big. And then another thing that I'll do, because we just really like good breakfast, is like we've been doing sort of muesli and yogurts and something simple. So we might sort of Instacart or go do a grocery when we arrive and have like fresh blueberries and whole yogurt and things like that in the room, so we can just make sure that we've had something in the morning. Because sometimes you're going to a place they don't even have a cafe nearby, or if they do, it's like
Yeah.
just a really it's like Dunkin' Donuts, and you're like, I just can't eat that. I'm not going to eat that in the morning. I need to feel good. So
Yeah.
but yeah, other than that, oh my God, any type of cuisine that is, I guess, native to the place I'm going, I'm gonna try all of it
Hmm.
if it's available, and if I'm in a place that offers it. I am about all food. I have really like no allergies, and I just eat everything. So I'm like, bring it on, man. Love it. I love it. I love hybrid foods. Yeah. When I think about that, I'm like, I just get so excited about all the things that are left to eat in the world that I haven't tried.
Yeah. No, no, I totally understand what you mean when it comes to like not liking fast food, and this is something I try to tell people as well. It's like eat actual food, like not just fast food. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
go to places that have fresh, fresh meat or fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. Like you'll feel different. You'll feel satiated a lot longer, especially because you never know what all is in the fast food, all the preservatives and all this stuff. Like this is stuff that Nick Apostolides and I talk about all the time because we're both health
He's
nuts and
Greek,
we're
right?
like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're
He's
like,
Greek, so he's all about fresh food. I imagine like they basically invented the fresh tomato. I mean, you can't get as fresh a tomato as you can in Greece, probably.
yeah. So, but yeah, it's really important. Not only for obviously your health, but just it tastes so different. Like if you do when you well not if when you do come out here, a couple of places I would definitely recommend. There's a great breakfast spot within town within Honolulu called Cafe Moray's. Everything is fresh made, massive portions, great price. Definitely got to try that. So
I will,
yeah.
period.
So
Thank
so
you.
so
I love that
yeah.
recommendation. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm already there.
What is of all the places you traveled in the world? What are some of the places that you enjoyed traveling to that may not be your norm?
Probably New Zealand. I mean, with conventions and things in the last 10 years? I mean, previous to
or
convention.
anything.
Yeah, I mean, I like trying new places. I've never been to Japan. That's been a bucket list thing for me for a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just never been. I just can't even believe it too. I've been thinking about it for like years and years. So hopefully in the next years I will make it to Japan, and China. I've never been to either of those massive. Well, Japan's not as massive, but I mean, how many different sort of countries within a country can you go to in China? I would love to just explore parts of Asia more in general. But yeah, I'd say the places that have made huge impressions on me: Russia, which happened years ago, but I went there to train for acting. Went to the
Hmm.
theater school for a little while, learned about Stanislavski, kind of just took in the whole place, took in the teachers, heard the stories. We got to talk a lot with the students who were there at Mahat, the Moscow Arts Theater School, and stuff like that. Boy, and then sort of headed to St. Petersburg and was able to sort of have some idea of contrasting Moscow from St. Petersburg, which is so vastly different. And yeah, that really opened up my mind. I felt very far from home and very far from language and a dominant culture of being, like American. So that made an impression. And I'd say one of the most beautiful places I've been is New Zealand, easily. We were there last year for a con, and we were able to sort of travel, take pictures of the night skies, and visit the animals there, and visit the kiwi, and do some really cool activities like that. And just the way that they've preserved certain parts of, I guess, like the bird populations, and have tried to keep rodents and unnative species like off the island. It just makes for this very strange environment where it feels like it just feels very sort of clean and
Hmm.
still. Aside from the birds, you're like, weird. It's like calm. Yeah, at least from the parts that I saw. So I just find that stuff fascinating. Yeah, for sure. I mean, Hawaii is obviously, I have been to Hawaii, Maui with my parents, and then the Big Island recently. And oh my God. I mean, yeah, the parts that I have seen have been extraordinary, but I feel like I've seen, this much of Hawaii. Love to come back and have an excuse. And yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely get you connected with the conventions out here, and also if you need a place to stay, my voice actor friends, so my partner and I, we have two condos. We have the one we're in now, and then there's one in Waikiki, and it's in with a 10th floor penthouse and such. And it's really nice. And so whenever people come, we're like, yeah, just stay there. Cause they're like, oh, we gotta get a hotel. I'm like, yeah, just stay here. We're right in the heart of everything. Everything's right there. Utilities, internet, all that is it's all there. So, but that's there. If you
An
ever,
operation going out there. Like, that's
yeah,
amazing. Oh, that's cool.
yeah. So I know, winding down on the last couple of questions, I want to be completely respectful of your time. I wanted to ask you, since I know you do a lot of charity work and you've co-founded Geek Up, like, what is the thing that inspired you to get into doing charity work? Like, what's the story behind that?
Maybe you can relate to this. I feel like when you start to become more public, you want to be intentional about the extroversion.
Hmm.
And I felt like after the Zelda thing happened, I'd already done a lot. Like, I'd already done 10 years of acting. I'd already sort of worked on other franchises like Rainbow Six and Assassin's Creed, and done a lot of stage work. But when the Zelda thing happened, I felt this very strong sense of, this is about as big as something gets, like in terms of like world movement. And it really shifted my idea of, once you're suddenly associated with an icon in any regard, it's like you suddenly are sort of, it shifts your framework a little. And I've often in my life, I mean, before I was an actor, I almost quit acting entirely and became like an arts educator and
Hmm.
moved to the Arctic. That's a whole nother kind of story, but I did train as an arts educator and was going to work in suicide prevention, and sort of, work up north. And then took a very different path. But I think there's always been part of me that's wanted to give back to the little community that I came from, just bring in resources. It was lacking a lot of them when I was growing up. There were a lot of people who felt hopeless around that area, and a lot of people were just fine. But the ones who had bigger dreams, it's a little harder to support them in a smaller area like that. That's like so many hours away from any city. So yeah, I just went back to Houghton, Michigan one day later in the year of 2017 after I started traveling with conventions and stuff, and also as an excuse to see my family. But I went into a local comic book shop and befriended this awesome person named Shanna Portine who owns Black Ice Comics in Houghton, Michigan, and is also a huge community advocate. And she's really tapped in there. And we were like, wouldn't it be cool if we could make this event that would kind of highlight the things that we love, like inclusiveness, LGBTQ, very, local artists, and also do the whole thing and make it for charity, for a local charity, just sort of like, a sort of regenerative little system here, and just keep it small. Doesn't need to be a big thing. And so it started like that, and turnout was great. And we were like, oh, this actually this works. It's a really great place for a bit of mentorship. You can kind of tie it in with Michigan Tech University. They were super pumped. They're like, please come this way. We can make this as part of we can sort of house you, and it's going to be around the students. And we're like, cool. So, I mean, it is hard to run a charity event. Oh my gosh. It is like boots on the ground. Thankfully, Shanna's there and she's got an amazing group of volunteers, but people don't realize how small it is behind the scenes, like how few people are actually how many hours it takes to like run that thing. So I really owe it to Shanna there, to be honest, because she's the one who's just makes it happen all year round for essentially a one-day event, once a year or biennially, once every 2 years. And then I try to bring in the celebrity talent. I bring myself in, and I'm kind of a spokesperson for it. And then on the days leading up, we're all boots on the ground, and we're all just like making everything happen, hands on everything. So it's been very rewarding. It's been a great feature in the area, and I don't regret a thing. It's harder than it looks. I will say that. But we've got some really fun stuff coming up for that in the future too. 2027 is going to be our next one, and we'll probably bring a third celebrity guest. Roger Craig Smith and I have teamed up with that. And last time we had Veronica Taylor, who was the original voice of Ash Ketchum, as a third guest. And it's always nice to have something kind of family friendly and fun that, anyway, we'll figure something out in the coming years, but it's only growing actually now at this point. So it's finding new legs and a bit of a facelift. And yeah, I'm really proud of it. I'm proud for everybody involved too, because is it a group effort? A lot of volunteers.
Awesome. So I got three. If you have the time, I have three final questions.
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. So you've done.
I'm so long-winded right now. I'm like, blah, until I had 2 coffees today at the cafe.
So you've done you've done on stage. You've done stage acting or on-screen acting as well. You've done booth work for voice acting, and you've done full performance capture with Ghost Recon Breakpoint. With those processes, how do they feel different to you as a performer, and what do you love most about each?
They all do feel really different as a performer. And I would say I haven't done stage in a while. I am itching to get back on stage because I feel there's a muscle that is required of you when you're on stage that everything else kind of touches, but stage is like something, it's its own beast. So I am really curious to see what it would feel like now that I'm in my 40s getting back on stage, and how my body would handle it and what it would activate and everything. So that's definitely in the works in the next 2 to 3 years. I'm looking for the right projects. Had a couple of smaller offers and I'm like, nope, not the right one, not the right time. So, but I love it that much, and it's so full body. I feel like in the booth, you have so many hybrids now, it's hard to kind of be too specific about it, but you do need a bit of mic technique. You need to make your ears sensitive about what is coming through you while simultaneously channeling it in a way that is about intentional acting. So I feel like you are channeling it through your voice more. But then on TV and film, you're really channeling it kind of through your eyes, and you're all there, but you've got to, I don't know, you sort of hold yourself a little differently when you're being very conscious of multicams. I really like performance capture. I mean, there is so much hybrid crossover now. I do find I'm using everything everywhere, or I'm drawing from the lessons learned in the different years and hoping that the adaptation process is just a little quicker. It was harder at first. I was very theatrical at first, and I couldn't pare it down. Nobody had taught me, and I had a background in dance, so I would sort of hold everything. And they were like, no, just chill out. And I'd be like, you mean like this? I just couldn't do it, for years in my 20s. I was a bit of a late bloomer there, I think. But yeah, now I'm kind of like, oh yeah, supernatural. And then this, I don't know. Not everybody does jump from one thing to the next. Some actors do, some actors don't, and I totally get that. I like to jump. It is a challenge. performance capture, I've done performance capture for multiple projects. So, and I do think that's a place that I thrive, and I was always felt comfortable because of the dance background and the physical background and the theater background. And plus being able to do this hybrid stuff. So that's where a lot of things come together for me. So I love performance capture. I've done 10 years of it for Rainbow Six and Assassin's Creed and yeah, a bunch of others. So yeah, I don't know. Does that answer your question? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
have really interesting answers from people that come on the show that can kind of get more specific about that sort of thing. But I'm just happy to be acting, right? I'm just like getting any sort of juicy roles in whatever medium they come. If they're well written or they got a cool team involved, I'm like, oh, yay, you know, it's so much of this work is doing all this work to just get a job. So yeah, it's pretty cool when it happens.
So you've become the first official English voice of Princess Zelda in the Zelda series, and you've said before that you don't own the role and only return when asked. So how do you feel, or how do you think about the future of Zelda's voice in the series, and what would you hope the next voice or new players that are discovering the games understand about the character?
I'm not sure. I hope anything for them other than a really fulfilling experience that moves them. I don't. Like, again, I don't own the role. I've tried to bring to it what I could, and I don't know when the next time will be that I get to sort of voice this role, when that will come out. Sometimes people ask, like, are you involved in the next one? And I'm like, look, regardless of whether or not I know that, I won't say anything about it. Even if I'm not in a project, I won't say anything about it. It's just, I am strict NDA. But I also don't feel like I have to pass the role on. I just do feel like there are several iterations of that character in the same way there would be a Bond or anything else on a different timeline, a different age, a different... So if I am used in the future where the character's painted differently, that'll be fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I feel like I sort of bring a certain essence and a hope for a kind of earnestness, a hopefulness, a strength, and a kind of a softness to her. I think I've said this before, but she's such a warrior, but she's also so soft. She's got that she holds that dual quality, which I think is what makes her compelling. But that might not be how somebody else, if there is another version of her written by multiple people or played, that might not be what they lean into. I just don't know. I will say that I feel like it's all very, the storytelling is classic, and it does have a certain amount of repetition or notable symbols and, story structure. So there is that to rely on, which I think is what Nintendo does very well. They combine these classic story structures with moments of very big innovation, technical innovation. And then the characters within that are just moving around, and I don't see. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to comment on it because I really don't own it. I know what it's like to talk to people who felt very inspired by the work that's been done. I've had a lot of years and a lot of amazing stories from other people and inspiration from other people coming to me who use this character as a symbol for them. So whatever it is has worked for a lot of people, and I just go, amazing. I think it worked because I gave it my all. I gave it my heart. And in the room, it's also supported by great writing and a lot of great people behind that, making finite decisions about every parts of the character. So every part of the characters. I don't know. I don't know what I hope for, except for it to be inspiring and moving and make you feel that you love humans a little more and that you can connect with other people. That's what it's all about. It always comes back to that.
Awesome. So my final question before we go is, what is one thing about you, that people might be surprised to know? Anything. It could be a hobby, a quirk, something you may not have even talked about, floor is yours.
I know. Maybe that even I'm quite deeply introverted, and I sit in silence.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, I sit in silence for hours and hours. That's what I will sit quietly in my head for a very, very long period of time. However, sort of extroverted and animated I may seem, that's not it's not how I generally roll. Yeah, that might be it. This is maybe a little to say, I've never just been fully convinced that I was an actor. So it's kind of it's I think I might indicate that by the things that I do, but it's never been an obvious thing that I was like, all I want to do is be an actor and that's it. I have a lot of friends who they feel very strongly about that being their career. And
Mhm.
for me, I've maybe just major imposter syndrome, but I've always felt like a hybrid of something that can never quite land. And maybe that's good sometimes. Maybe it brings me into certain kinds of work because roles find you and you find roles. But yeah, I still live with that. And I think I always will. I'll just never be sure of anything.
Okay.
I guess that's something to admit, but for what it's worth.
So is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with before we go? Anything for aspiring actors, actresses that may want to follow in your footsteps? And yeah, anything.
There's no magical formula. You got to make your own stuff. You got to start and you find your process through a lot of failing and drafts. Everything is about drafts. I just think that that's great advice, and it's advice that I come back to multiple times a year. It's advice that I come back to on a day like today when an artist that I've known for 20 years and we trust each other immensely gets nervous handing me her screenplay. I'm like, are you crazy? I know you so well. But making your own work, like putting yourself out there, it's just messy. You got to accept that it's messy and deliver the goods. And there are so many rewards to reap by making your own stuff. Yeah. And my God, have fun in it. Don't forget the pleasure. And highlight the pleasure for yourself.
Where can people find you? And is there anything you're working on that you'd like to share or that you can share? If there's any NDAs, we won't touch it.
Thanks. I know it's like the most annoying question. We're like, yeah, I got some things, but I can't tell you now. Just kind of, that's about it. Writing, music, all these things, none of them are ready to sort of present yet. And the games that I'm working on aren't announced yet, so I can't say anything. But stay tuned. Stay tuned. PatriciaSomerset.com is my website. I have my appearance schedule on there, and I will be making several this year. And Instagram at Summersett_. I'm on there. I'm not always on there, but that's my main place where I'm going to be updating and doing my best to sort of kind of keep up with the Joneses and, protecting my mental health at the same time by taking breaks.
Yes.
It seems to get harder and harder, to be honest. But
yeah.
as the vortex draws you in. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And hopefully I'll see you in person sometime because I'll be getting around and maybe to Hawaii in the next year or two by the sounds of it. We'll see. That'd be fun. It'd be super cool to meet you and your partner in person.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And we'll definitely we'll get that happening to get you out here. So yeah, I'll make some calls and some emails and we'll get that happening. So with that being said, I want to thank you, Patricia, for taking the time out of your day I know you're very busy and I'm very grateful that you took the time to come on the show. It's an honor to have you on. I'd love to have you on again. And like I said, I know my partner would love to have you on her show. And with that being said, thank you to Spotify for sponsoring this show. Only podcast in Hawaii is sponsored by Spotify, so I appreciate that. And I will leave links so people can find you on your website and social media in the description down below. And with that being said, we are signing out, people. Have a blessed and aloha rest of your day. And Patricia, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Mekel, been an absolute pleasure.
If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast or any of the other episodes that we've done so far, if you've enjoyed any of the conversations I've had with the guests that I've had on the show, or just general topics that you guys have thrown at me or that I've researched and we've just talked about on the show, then do me a solid. If you're listening on any of the major podcasting outlets, make sure you leave a comment, leave a rating or a review because it greatly helps out the show. If you're watching the show on YouTube, which airs every single week, then make sure you sub to the channel, youtube.com/@Mekel Kasanova, or just youtube.com/Mekel Kasanova, or even do us an even bigger solid by liking the video and sharing it with someone you think would find some enjoyment out of it. And all that being said, I hope you guys continue to enjoy this podcast and the content we put out here because, hey, we do it with a passion and we do it for you. So with that being said, I catch you guys on the next one. Stay safe, be blessed, and I'll see you around. Peace.